Resistance. Resistance is the thing that keeps us from living our best life. But what is resistance? Okay, well, we're going to find out today. Howdy, 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 conscious gearheads. It's your girl, Charlotte, and I decided to do a book recommendation today because this is one of my favorite books. I love this book so much. I got the printed version. I got the audio version. I've bought plenty of people this book, and if you ask me for it, I will get it for you. And what I love most about Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, is that, he's like a preacher. He's not really a preacher, but he speaks to all of my sensibilities, and he helps me understand how I get in my own way of achieving my goals. And so today I thought I would share the book with you. And also I'm just going to take you through some of my favorite quotes from the book. You got to read the book. There's no spoiler alerts. The bottom line is that I think that it will touch you where it needs to touch you. But I think there is so much in this book that it's going to touch each and every person. So you got to read the book. But I'll just share with you a few of my favorite quotes and talk to you about how they spoke to me. And I hope that will inspire you, encourage you to read this book as well. So one of my first favorite quotes is resistance. As I said in the beginning, resistance is the thing that's getting in the way of us achieving our goals and living our best life. Resistance is a force that stops someone from pursuing their true calling. In other words, it's like your arch nemesis. It is that force, it's invisible, that ensures you don't live up to your potential, leading you to a life unlived. And I'll be honest with y'all, for many years, I thought I was going to be able to settle for living a life unlived. But I tell you, when I landed in an emergency room, I talk about this all the time. I had to make a decision. I had to make a choice. And I think it was at that moment that I decided I would live. And that was just one form of resistance, right? It was really a lot of my emotional and mental, psychological pain manifested itself physically, right? And I needed kind of that wake-up call because I always tell people I'm spiritually hard-headed. And so for me, reading this book and learning what resistance is, and what's telling about this particular quote, and I want to call it out to you guys, is that it's like if something is easy, it ain't probably your true calling, right? It's just something you get to do because you're good at it. It's like me, I'm good at math and science. It was never hard. I mean, there was nothing really, there was never any resistance, you know what I mean? But when it comes to building this business, when it comes to designing outdoor gear for bigger bodies, I feel like I'm always being forced to deal with moments of resistance. And that's when I realized, this is my purpose. This is my true calling. This is what I'm really supposed to be doing. And so therefore, yes, my arch nemesis is going to show up to try to keep me from doing that. But I refuse. I refuse to let my arch nemesis win. All right, y'all, let's go on to the next quote. This one right here. Steven Pressfield, know he's going to church when he says this. He says, if you believe in God, and I do, you must declare resistance evil, for it prevents us from achieving the life God intended when he endowed us, each of us, with our own unique genius. Stephen. I think so many times I was raised in the church, right? And we talk a lot about the evil and the devil. And I've come to realize that, you know what? It's the devil. And I don't really consider devil like, I'm personifying devil because I really think it's more of a concept and not really a person. I really think it's the thing that gets in our way. It's the shadow side. It's the opposite. It's the dark side. It's the off. You know what I mean? It's anything that's not in the present, in the moment, representing love, representing our true creativity and our purpose. Stephen kind of is trying to connect to us, particularly those of us that have religious backgrounds and that believe in God, that look, resistance is like evil. It's the opposite of what you should be doing. Your creativity is how you're supposed to live your life. And if you're not doing that, then you almost allowing evil to prevail, right? And that's why we feel horrible. That's why we feel like, we don't want to go on, or why we feel like we struggle, because we're in the midst of resistance. But understanding that resistance can never really prevail, I think will help us step away from the resistance, right? It will help us manage it. I always say I have a relationship with my resistance. I'm like, okay, girl, thank you for showing up. Thank you, for being here. However, I'm dismissing you now, okay? Because I got to get about the business. I got to get about the business of using my own unique genius in service to humanity. Because I got a purpose and a calling. I'm going to do that. I know you're here to get in my way, but I'm not going to let you. So I just think it's important for us to kind of be able to put resistance in its place, right? And also understanding, this is what I love about the notion of evil, is that we can't understand good without understanding bad. And you can't even appreciate good unless you understand bad. It's like what they call, I know Abraham Hicks talks a lot about this, as a point of contrast. It's just being able to see light, dark, right? You couldn't really understand the light without the dark. You couldn't understand the dark without the light. It's like you can't understand evil without good. You can't understand good without evil. And so it's really just a point of contrast. Resistance is a point of contrast. It's a moment when you're not really stepping into your full genius, right? And understanding that it has to be there, right? Because you wouldn't even appreciate, you wouldn't really understand, you really wouldn't. That's why we have the minds that we do. And that's why we have so much consciousness, is that you really wouldn't be able to appreciate the good without understanding the opposite of it. And so that's why we can have a relationship with it, because we know that, oh, okay, you're just here to point out that really what I need to be doing is stepping into my life and doing what it is I'm supposed to be doing. So I love this saying. And every time I read it, I'm just like, woo. I'm just reminded, okay, every time I feel like stuff comes up against me, I'm like, oh, you just resistance. Oh, okay, I see you. But no, you don't get to have any control over my life. This next quote is super cool too. It says, we must do our work for its own sake, not for fortune or attention or applause. Whoa, Steven. I'm going to tell you something right now. I love conscious care. I love making these hydration vests for the bigger bodies. And don't get it twisted. Yes, I want to make some money. I've said this before and I'll say it again. However, I'm doing it because I know it's the right thing to do. I know it's a good thing to do. I don't know how much fortune or attention or applause I'm going to get. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of times I don't get any attention or any applause. And I have not gotten to the level of saying I got a fortune. But I do it because, man, I just knew when I needed a vest, it was not there. And I thought how fucking unfair it was. I didn't have a vest for me and my curvier, taller, bigger body. Why not? And so every time I sit down to do it, I'm like, I'm doing it for everybody. I don't want them to have the same experience that I had. I feel like it was demoralizing. It could have really distracted me from continuing on my fitness journey. It really had the propensity, not being able to find something to fit, it feels so, you feel neglected. I feel like it's a form of abuse. I feel like I'm being ignored. I'm feeling like I don't even fucking matter, that you didn't even think enough to make a hydration vest big enough for me when you know hydration is super fucking important for humans. You know what I mean? I was just like, really? Which is why I do this work for its own sake. Because I know there's a gap in the market. I know there are people out there that need it. I know, because I am one of them. And so therefore I do it for the sake of doing it. Yes, all the money, fortune, fame, attention, applause, it may or may not come. But I know in my heart of hearts, as some of the other quotes alluded to, I am using my own unique genius. This is my calling. This is what chose me and I chose it back. This is what I get to do. And so resistance, right? Let me show you how resistance shows up in my life as it relates to this. People were like, well, it's not that many fat people are going to want to buy it. It's not that many fat people running marathons. It's not that many fat people out there. You're never going to make. And you know what? I say I'm doing it for its own sake. I don't need for everybody to validate, affirm. I don't need these venture capitalists to say, you're not going to make any money, so I'm not going to invest in you. Fuck you. I'm doing this because I know in my heart of my hearts, in my heart of my hearts, in my heart of my hearts, that there are people that need that. And I know that it will get into their hands one day. So I do it for its own sake. And for all the resistance that come at me, I'm like, shut up, because you don't know what you're talking about. I know. And so that's what I love about Steven Pressfield, when he really belays this point that we have to do the work for its own sake, y'all. Stop trying to do it for all the other reasons. You can say to yourself, of course you want money and you want applause and you want attention, but it can't be the primary why. It can't be, let me say this. The thing about doing it for the fortune, the attention, and applause is this: when it's there, you good, right? And when it ain't there, you you all of a sudden, you feel debilitated, you paralyzed, you can't function, you can't do. So you can't be dependent on that. Do it because it makes you feel good. Do it because you know it's a good thing to do in the world. Do it because you know it's your calling. Do it because you know it's your genius. Just do it for its own sake. And I tell you right now, that's what happens when you co-create with the Holy Spirit, is that the Holy Spirit will do the rest. You just got to do your part. And that's what Steven Pressfield is always saying, like, just do the part that you can do. The miracles will happen. Why? Because you're co-creating with the infinite intelligence that has so much more power than you, so many better plans for you, so much more for you than you could ever imagine. So y'all, don't get me to preaching in here. I didn't already start preaching, but that's okay too. I love this saying. And if you could put this up on your wall, if you put it on your phone, you can put it next to your bed. I'm going to tell you, it's a lifesaver for me. I always remind myself, just do the work for its own sake. In an effort to not make these videos too long, I've split it up. So go into the next video where I will share with you some more quotes from The War of Art by Steven Pressfield.